Hey, random stranger, welcome back to Odd Taxi. We are coming up to the end of the series now, but it still feels like there are quite a few mysteries to uncover. So here we go with the recap of episodes 7 to 9 and then onwards to the new eps. One of the questions that I kept asking while I watched the last couple of episodes was, why is Odokawa doing what he's doing? He's basically decided to dismantle an entire criminal organization on his own. I mean, he also succeeded in recruiting a little Daimon to his side, but for the most part, he's constantly walking into these situations that could easily get him killed without any sort of backup. All the while, of course, he's still being stalked by the bloodthirsty Tanaka. But why? Yes, he is partly doing it for Miho and also for Kakihana, both of whom were victimized by the gang. But I think there's more to it than that. I think him being so nonchalant about risking his life has everything to do with the new facts that we learn about his past. It turns out that both Odokawa's parents are dead, so they're not missing, which is what he had told Goriki and what we've been assuming this whole time. He has also been living alone since 5th grade, which is insanely sad, and kind of just finding ways to survive in this world without any sort of safety net. When you've experienced abandonment like that, complete abandonment as a kid, I feel like danger just doesn't register in the same way as a normal person's. Odokawa isn't fearless, he's clearly afraid of pain and dying like most of us are. He's also not the chest-feeding, bravado-pumped, dum-dum, but I feel like his relationship to fear is somewhat abnormal. He has this very fatalistic acceptance that bad things just happen. They will happen to you and you just have to deal with them on your own. So for example, when he rescued Kakihana from the warehouse toilet, again, at great risk to himself because he basically was walking straight into gang territory, he very casually was like, "Oh, sorry to keep you waiting." That's not normal. Look, it was very cool of him, but at the same time, I don't think he was trying to be cool. In fact, it seemed almost dissociative. He treated rescuing a friend from a deadly gang as if it's just a completely normal, everyday sort of situation. Because I think someone who's been in extreme survival mode since childhood, that distinction between what's normal and what's abnormal may not exist. So instead of being brazenly heroic there, and all the other times that he's done things like this, he was just doing what needed to be done to survive, or in this case, to help other people survive. If I were to try and sum up in one sentence why I think Odokawa is the way that he is, I think he's someone for whom the precariousness of existence is just so deeply ingrained that risking his life in these sorts of extreme situations doesn't really feel any different from the baseline risk of just being alive. That's kind of messed up, but it makes sense when you consider the traumas that Odokawa has been through. It also explains some of his other quirks. He pays more rent than is necessary and refuses help from anyone, including the organization who paid for a lifetime of rent for him. I mean, I wonder if there's something dodgy about that. Like if Odokawa found out who the foundation was and then just didn't want anything to do with them. But putting aside that for a moment, you clearly see these defense mechanisms in Odokawa, who learned as a kid that he could only rely on himself, even if it means staying away from people who are just, who just want to be kind, like the landlord lady that he characterized in his mind as a very friendly puppy, just wanting to, be friendly. Accepting help means acknowledging that you're vulnerable, and being vulnerable means opening yourself up to being abandoned or being hurt by other people, which also explains why he shut Miho down so badly, even though he really cares about her, because it was another data point for him where allowing himself to grow attached to someone led him to being hurt. Better to be completely self-sufficient and to owe nothing to anyone so that you maintain as much control over your life as possible in a life where everything can be taken from you in an instant. It's a sad way to go about life, but again, from his perspective, it makes sense. Then there was the synesthesia reveal, which was a great twist because it recontextualizes the entire show. So Odokawa has some kind of neurological condition that causes him to process people as animals. Once he sees someone and knows them, he can recognize them consistently as the same animal. So the anthropomorphism we've been seeing is actually Odokawa's subjective experience of reality. And it does force us to reconsider his every interaction with every other character through this new lens. A really significant example is the way that Odokawa has been talking to his cupboard, as if the missing girl or the missing black cat has been staying inside of it. So we know that Odokawa saw the girl as a black cat, which is also the same kind of cat as Mitsuya. So we can conclude then that the girl who went missing or, was found murdered at the bottom of the sea looked very similar to Mitsuya. We also know that Yamamoto was somehow involved in the disappearance of the girl because he seems to be freaking out quite a bit. So the girl's death most likely has something to do with Mystery Kiss. And, the pieces still aren't quite fitting together cleanly, but the only reason we were even able to put together a lot of that was because of Odokawa's synesthesia. Going back to Odokawa talking as if there's a cat inside his cupboard, Goriki theorized that it's an imaginary friend that he's made up to cope with the intense stress that he's under. This is a guy who's dealing with multiple life-threatening situations while maintaining a very surface level of calm. The psychological pressure has to go somewhere. So talking to an imaginary someone shows that Odokawa is not actually coping well. He just appears to be. This was something I thought about a bit. What did Odokawa mean when he heard the news report that the girl's body had been found and he turned towards the cupboard and said, "Now you can't escape." Just theorizing here and going out on a limb, Odokawa was one of the last people to see the girl alive. So she got into his taxi, he drove her to the Mystery Kiss studio, and then she disappeared, presumably was murdered. I think for someone who already had built his life around the trauma of being unable to save the people who mattered most to him, i.e. his parents, I feel like that must have triggered something in him. Like here was a girl who he picked up in his taxi and he had failed to protect her or to prevent her death, even though it completely wasn't his fault. Maybe the imaginary cat in the cupboard is also Odokawa's way of processing guilt. By keeping her alive in conversation, he was able to maintain the fiction that she was still alive in his cupboard, that he hadn't lost her like he'd lost everything else in his life. When the body was found and her death became undeniable, you'd expect that he would drop the delusion, but instead he said, "Now you can't escape," as if he was trapping her even more firmly. Maybe because his failure to protect her was now confirmed, he needed to keep her even more contained, even if it's just in his own mind. It's like what he was really saying was, I can't let this guilt go, so you're stuck with me now and I'm stuck with you. If Goriki's imaginary friend theory is true, then again, it's quite sad, but it does make sense for Odokawa. For someone who spent most of his life refusing help and being alone, the one relationship he allows himself is with someone imaginary, someone who can't leave him because she's already gone. Moving on to Ishimura and the whole scamming debacle. So she wanted out, and I think despite the shittiness of what she's done, there was some redeeming quality in her recognizing when something has gone too far and then taking steps to change course. If you put her next to Nikaido, the contrast immediately becomes clear. Nikaido is fully committed to the idol dream and wouldn't blink twice about scamming older men, whereas there is a line with Ichimura. So that's the scammer, but what about the scammed poor Kakihana? Every scene with Kakihana was just so painful to watch. Even in the most dire of situations, he kept up that charade. Even when Ichimura explicitly told him that their relationship had just been a scam, he couldn't accept it. The cognitive dissonance was extreme because admitting the truth would mean confronting how thoroughly pathetic he's been. I thought that Yosegi puzzle that Odokawa brought up afterwards when they were escaping was a potent symbol for Kakihana psychology. Yosegi puzzles are these Japanese wooden boxes with a lot of sliding panels that you open by completing a series of very complicated steps. That Kakihana was proud of mastering this puzzle showed that He valued it as something that he could control and be good at. If he can solve this extremely difficult puzzle, then maybe he's not as worthless as he feels. Maybe there is still some part of him that's capable and competent. But according to Odokawa, it all fell apart and Kakihana stopped being cool and started being pathetic after his mum destroyed the box because she needed to get something out of it. And she destroyed it like an otter, referring to the fact that otters use rocks to smash the shells of clams and mussels to get to the meat. Clearly, Odokawa brought that story up as a kind of a joke, but there is something deeper there. I think that seemingly unimportant anecdote was used to make the point that there were things that happened in Kakihana's life that slowly ate away at his already small sense of self-worth. And often that's how our self-esteem dies. It's more death by 1,000 cuts than a single killing blow. One day your Yosagi puzzle box is destroyed, followed by numerous other moments that chip away at your sense of competence. And then the next thing you know, you've been scammed and almost killed by thugs. So after reminiscing about the puzzle box, they both just kind of laughed very helplessly and uncontrollably. It was an unexpected moment of warmth after the craziness of what had just happened. And I think it's just the kind of laughter that comes when all the adrenaline fades away and you realize what you just survived and the absurdity of your experience becomes clear. For Odokawa, the laughter might have been even more loaded. He'd spent most of his life keeping people at arm's length, and here he is just having risked his life for a friend. Maybe the fact that they're laughing together and sharing that moment after having survived something absolutely terrifying is proof that his walls don't have to be as high as he's built them. I also wanted to point out the moment where Odokawa was carrying Kakihana out to his taxi and they passed the polar bear Sekiguchi and Dobu fighting, and he called them idiots because clearly they can't properly express their emotions, so they resort to fists. It was a perfectly ironic statement coming from him. Odokawa, who talks to an imaginary friend in a cupboard, who's built up all of these barriers to genuine human connection out of a fear of being vulnerable and also maybe just not knowing how to interact with people. He can see the problem in others with such clarity, but he can't recognize his own psychological issues. And that's true of a lot of us. That awareness of others' problems doesn't automatically translate into self-awareness. Tanaka didn't appear much in these episodes other than to shoot at Odokawa from a van, but his presence was felt pretty much everywhere. There was this festival where people wore skull masks and his blue outfit. Just some sharp commentary on celebrity culture and how violence gets commodified. Instead of being repulsed by a guy who shot at people in a full nightclub, there's fascination. People dress up as him, and Tanaka's become a sort of pop icon, and the wrongness of what he's doing in a modern society gets turned into entertainment. Throughout history, the glorification of violence has always been a thing, but Odd Taxi shows how the internet specifically just accelerates everything about the whole messed upness of that process. We finally met Yano, and it's very clear that he is not a good person. He seems to enjoy other people's suffering. He objectifies women, but to be fair, he probably does that to everyone else too. People are just a means to an end for him. It's wholly unsurprising then that he ended up as a mid-level mob boss, because you need to have that kind of dehumanizing outlook to get there. What's weird about Yano is that he raps and rhymes everything. So his style of rap is similar to street battle rap, which is a competitive format where rappers trade these verbal threats and insults and posture about the violence that they're going to unleash on their opponents. It's all performance and bravado. The threats theoretically stay contained within the lyrics. Except with Yano, ironically, he is actually violent. He's not just rapping about it and about what he'd do. He literally orchestrates kidnappings and orders his cronies to kill people. I think the rapping is also how he elevates himself above everyone else. He is literally operating on a different intellectual plane. It's this performative way of signaling that his thinking is on another level. In his raps, he talked about growing up poor and about ruthlessly fighting and clawing his way up the human food chain, which is another common theme in street rap. He is a very self-made, ambitious man, and the rapping is both an honorable badge of that journey and also a reminder to everyone else that he's climbed higher than most. There was a really revealing moment when Yano made Kakeyama call his mom. If you notice the other two thugs, Yamamoto and Sekiguchi, they both looked visibly uncomfortable while watching that pathetic phone call, but Yano really enjoyed himself. So for all of their criminal activities, like the other two still have that reflex of discomfort when witnessing the total degradation of a fellow human being. Yano doesn't. So again, he's operating on a completely different moral wavelength. Or more accurately, he doesn't seem to be operating with one at all. The other thing that made Yano quite unsettling is that sitting underneath all that violence and all that dehumanizing and cruelty is this childlike quality that he has, most visibly represented through the fact that he zips around on a scooter, of all things. You know, it kind of brings to mind a kid's toy. It creates this dissonance that makes him creepier than if he were just a straight up thug. The fact that he travels around on a toy scooter, not to insult the many functioning adults who enjoy a scooter ride themselves, does suggest arrested development, like some part of him never really grew up, including the part responsible for empathy or for moral reasoning. It's like he's a child playing with human lives. Yano is smart though, you know, like he figured out Dobu's play to rob the 1 billion yen from a mile away, but it's that combination of intellectual superiority with childish behavior and also a complete moral vacuum that makes Yano one of the more disturbing characters in the show. I want to briefly go back to Yamamoto because there was a point in these episodes where I was like, wait, does he actually care about the Mystery Kiss girls? But then that didn't last long because one, I remembered that really he's just using two of them purely as tools to elevate Nikaido. And to him, you know, the girls are more like assets in an investment portfolio. So what he does care about actually is them making the big time. He wants Mystery Kiss to blow up, and it's probably because they're his passport to proving his worth to the boss or to the criminal organization. If he can create a money-making pop sensation, it would validate his investments in them and his value to the organization. The girls themselves are a means to that end. So similar to Yano in that way, he may not be as far gone as Yano, but he's also not an upstanding guy himself either. Theory: what if Yamamoto was the one who murdered the boss's classmate's daughter in a panic because she was going to quit Mystery Kiss, which would have ruined his plans for their success. And then he had to replace the murdered girl with Mitsuya, the current Mitsuya, who really is just a lookalike. Oh shit, that means that Ichimura is also in serious danger because her commitment to Mystery Kiss also seems to be wavering. Although if they're both the girls who are wearing a mask, then it really shouldn't have mattered even if they couldn't find an exact lookalike, you know? Finally, there was Taichi, who had spiraled into the typical luxurious celebrity lifestyle while simultaneously still hating himself and still being the same coward that people who know him in real life know him to be. He really became that guy who smashes a girl with a lamp. His chat with Dobu, who is apparently also an unlicensed therapist in addition to his day job as a gangster, revealed the core issue, which is that Taichi craved attention because he needed to fill the void of feeling worthless. Let's unpack Dobu's very sage line, which was, your extreme rejection and hatred of yourself is narcissism. It sounds contradictory at first, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, narcissism isn't just excessive self-love. At its core, it's an obsessive preoccupation with the self, whether that manifests as extreme self-love or self-loathing. Taichi was fundamentally self-absorbed. You know, he was the center of his own universe, even if that center was defined by worthlessness rather than worth. I still can't believe that Dobu actually helped Taichi turn his life around and learn to accept himself. He let Taichi off really easily, I felt, for what he could have done to the kid. I mean, if Dobu ever wants to retire from the crime game, I think he has a very, very promising career in counseling. Just quickly before watching the next episodes, there was one mystery that was cleared up and then another one that I really, really want the answer to. So we found out that the Daimon's parents were killed by a hit and run driver of a taxi, which is why Big Daimon always felt that particular vendetta for Odokawa and why Little Daimon is all gung-ho for justice. It's really interesting how that shared childhood trauma manifested in such different ways when they grew up. The other mystery that's still kind of up in the air and that I feel somehow is really important and is connected to both the Daimon's parents' accident and also Odokawa's car accident is who is behind the foundation that paid for Odokawa's rent. The secrecy is quite dodgy, so it feels like it might have something to do with the criminal organization, the same one that Odokawa is trying to take down. Because it was kind of vaguely hinted at that the car accident Odokawa was in as a child could also be related to the hit and run that killed the Daimon's parents, if the criminal organization was somehow responsible for that car accident, maybe Big Diamond is actually doing something similar to Odokawa, pretending to work for them while trying to gather enough evidence to pin them to the crime. And he and Odokawa are actually on the same side. That would be a really cool twist. Having said all of that, though, everything could also just be a coincidence. I guess we'll just have to find out. So if you guys are ready to watch episode 10, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play. Oh my god, I wonder if it's Yano rapping this part. I don't remember if we actually saw a black cat's tail coming from Odokawa's cupboard. I don't think so. I think. Oh no, they didn't make it. This kid. Why is he even talking to him? He's pretty confident for a high school kid. I mean, I feel like he's already thinking about it, Shibagaki. Unlicensed dog? Oh, Dobu taught Yano the ropes. Let's see, he's such a kid. He's got like just candy conveniently tucked away in his suit. It must be so tiring having a conversation with him. Oh no. Oh, okay, he actually did it. That is so obvious. Damn. Damn, he's sharp. Okay, so they're actually Yakuza. I mean, they figured that out, but I mean, not the first time he's been threatened. Mhm. Damn, he's laying out the cards. He really doesn't care about putting himself up against these guys. I don't know. I don't know if he has the balls to do it. Okay, this looks like a site you'd bury a dead body in. I mean, what did he expect? Oh, God. Dobu's coming. Oh, so much power in a voice. Oh, she knows, what's it called? I forget. Capoeira? Oh my God, this is so cathartic. So she's just happened to be following his taxi. No? For attempted murder. His little diamond. Does it have to do with the missing girl? That's why they're blackmailing him. See, now I'm flip flopping between. He actually kind of does want Mistrikis to do well for their own sake. Because now he's throwing his own team under the bus. I don't know. Also, Miho's pretty scary, though. It's not like he's going to say no to that to her face. Ouch. That's got to hurt her. Mm, it's his charisma. Mm. Oh, they have such great chemistry. Whether they're fighting or talking. The same white man? Hard boiled. It's the one that Mitsuya put in his taxi. Mm. Is that a threat? That sounds like a threat. You can never be too sure. Mm. Maybe that's why he doesn't want the foundation to have paid for him. Like, he genuinely wants to pay them back. Maybe it has nothing to do with the gang. Ah, this dude. Ah, damn. Guy's just like outing himself. Man, let this be a lesson. Why fear history? Oh my god. That's amazing that they managed to get the English translation to rhyme as well. Uh, a taxi. I mean, W is playing with our minds, just being so, what's the word? Not generous, but like you feel like he really is very principled, even though he's done some shit things, like beat up Miho. Oh, is it the lookalike? Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's just further confirmation that they look very similar, similar enough to pass for each other. I guess, man, he is really invested. I don't know, but I feel it's disconnected from his care for the individual girls, you know? Like Mystery Kiss, the project is his baby. It's just so bizarre how he's listening to this taxi driver guy instead of going to the police. There'll be so many things that can go wrong with this plan. Just a million things. Wow, this guy has the sunniest disposition on life ever. It's like most people, if they'd won 1 billion yen and then just lost it, they'd be horribly depressed. Not this guy. Not Imai. Oh, oh, so who's the girl? He's saying the girl that he drove in his taxi isn't her. So isn't the whole city going to be an uproar now as to, well, there has been a third girl performing as Mitsuya this whole time, that the real Mitsuya was lying on the bottom of an ocean, right? I want to know what happened. I do still feel that there's a possibility that Yamamoto was the one who murdered Mitsuya, like the real Mitsuya. But then most of me is like, he just doesn't fit the profile. Like, it doesn't feel like that's where this is headed. There's something else that's more sinister that he's covering for. So I think he knows what happened. It's just he may not be the actual murderer. Huh. I reckon we should just keep going straight to episode 11. I do very much appreciate that we got to see Miho in her kick ass state with her capoeira. Headcanon is that she learned martial arts after having broken up with Dobu and just needed something so that she could protect herself against any possible future attacks, which is really sad. I mean, I know that Dobu's hold over her wasn't just purely physical. Clearly, he has a way of roping people in, and even as he's abusing them or, blackmailing them or threatening to kill them, he also at the same time makes them feel as if he's really not that bad of a guy. But an abuser is an abuser, and Dobu does deserve his just desserts. Huge reveal as well, that the body that was found did belong to Mitsuya's. So the question now is, who is that mystery kiss girl who's singing and dancing in her stead? Okay, episode 11 in 3, 2, 1, play. I just wonder how Tanaka's gonna come in and kind of ruin everything. It's just this very intricately laid plan, and I feel like Tanaka's gonna be that X factor that throws in the chaos. Oh, Nikaido background episode. Sounds like Tanaka. Oh my god, what if Nikaido murdered her so that she could take the lead role in the idol group? Oh no. Okay, she was sent to right from the start. So they weren't masked then. They were only masked, I guess, after she was murdered. But she hates him. Yeah. No, or they finally found freedom, you know? You create your own prison with your own expectations. I mean, she's that annoyed her. She doesn't look happy though. Like she doesn't trust Mitsuya. Oh god, those are definitely some murder eyes. Oh, oh man. Okay, so okay, so he didn't do it and she didn't do it. So it must have been the, the it wasn't Ishimura. Oh, she would have done it. Oh, so he's protecting Nikaido because she looks like the biggest suspect. Yano, please. I mean, he's. Oh, why are you taking photos? He is so awful. Ugh, what a trash of a human. Oh my god, she also had to help carry the body. She really planned a murder that she never got to carry out. Oh my god, they're dismembering it. Ooh. Ugh. Damn. Deal with the devil. I guess the eye color is different, so they needed to make them wear masks. Sakura. Okay, so she didn't know either. So who? I mean, she also has a real lack of moral compass. Like, I mean, I guess she just wants to be an idol. I mean, she was the one who's also like, you know, I was very loved as a child. Sometimes I wish I could just disappear. I mean, choice words. Mm. Ugh, so stressful. Well, their boss, right? Well, the body being found really messed everything up for them. Matching pajamas. As long as he's not winning. I mean, people are gonna put two and two together, though, right? Because she's appeared numerous times since she went missing, right? Mm. Why would they dump it so close to the wharf? I mean, I'm assuming people won't know that that's their hideout, but still. It's the real one. Mm. It's clown music for this guy. He only cares about himself. I mean, she's still there. I guess. Okay. I guess it's just like, well, we had to find this girl because the real one went missing. I mean, he suggested the cafe hideout thing joke that the giraffe guy did. Just speaking truth. Oof. I don't know. Shibakaki's gonna like commit a murder soon as well. Is that the same wharf as where Yano's warehouse is? Double suicide or double murder? Why does that pig look so angry? I mean, I don't think they would be able to come back from this. He's most definitely trying to paint that picture. I mean, he might not be wrong. It must have, like, because how did they know that she's going to be in that building at that time unless they were stalking her? You know, this might have been a crazy fan. Wait, so Big Diamond isn't he working for the gang? Oh no, he's okay. He's speaking to Odokawa as because Odokawa is supposedly on their team on the gang side. Wait, did he just? Wait, so it's my theory, right? That he actually is trying to take down the organization himself too? Big time one? Oh no, the shit's gonna go down. I mean, fair. You'd, you want to forget that if you could. It's like drawings of animals. Yeah, he's giving off a lot of information out to like some random guy. I'm his father. No, I'm his friend. Oh. Oh no. Okay, there he is. Oh, man, there's a lot of things to revisit, like go back to the earlier episodes and then recontextualize it in light of the new information that we just learned in that episode. I think that we can take Odokawa's parents' car accident at face value. Like, I don't, I feel like they dropped in a few misdirectional hints to make us think that maybe there was something more ominous about it. But I think it really is just that I'm pretty sure it was one of his parents was driving and then just drove the other parent along with him into the sea, and they both died, and he miraculously ended up surviving. The fact that he then wiped his memory of that horrible, horrible incident is, I mean, it's not surprising, but then maybe he actually does believe that they're missing. I'm not sure if it's one of those things where it actually rewrote his entire reality and it hasn't been corrected since. The other thing is, of course, the Mitsuya revelation. So we know now why her parents decided to drop the missing persons case because they were told that, she ran away because she didn't want to be involved in um, the connection to the gang. I really enjoyed how they just dropped one misdirection after another. At first you think, oh, it was okay, it was Nikaido this whole time. And now it makes sense, they've been planning it since the beginning because she's just been so ambitious and she's always wanted to be front and center. But then it wasn't her. And then Yamamoto comes into the picture and he's like, oh my God, he actually killed uh Mitsuya because in his heart, his favorite was Nikaido because he was the one who picked her to be center, and then it wasn't. And now it's just like, who's left? There is also the replacement girl that they found, Waragaki, but then it seemed like she was only brought in after all that stuff had happened and after they did all the cover-up work. I don't know. About the only clue really that we have is that it had to have been someone who knew that Mitsuya was going to meet Nikaido in that building, or at least followed her to that building and then struck. I'm really keen to get more of this story. I think like slowly he's starting to see things unravel. So here we go with episode 12 in 3, 2, 1, play. Second last one, guys. I feel like I'm missing something. This is the part where you have to go back through all of your notes, episode by episode, and then you discover something that's maybe just been staring at your face this whole entire time. Big Diamond, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Like maybe he really is just working with Dobu for the money. I mean, I was just trying to figure out how he gets there from someone whose parents died because of a hit and run. You know, you'd assume that he would have the same passion for justice and just feel really bad for working with a criminal like Dobu. It'd be like betraying his dead parents, but clearly it's not the case. I don't know. Ah, Mitsuya. Also, it was very, very significant that Nikaido would have killed her, if she'd refused to not give up the center spot. I don't know if he's gonna do it because it seems like he doesn't care anymore. Mm. Oh, okay, that's the real one. Oh, is his intelligence gonna be the thing that gets him? Oh no. Oh no, Emma didn't do anything. Oh, that was close. I mean, maybe they gave him the counterfeit bills. Hinode Wolf. I don't think that was the same wolf that his parents drove the car into. That's Mitsuya's dad, right? Yeah. Mm. Kuro-chan. So that's the tapir. He's the judge of the comedian competition. There's the giraffe guy in the audience. Oh, he's gonna go off script. I mean, maybe people will love it. Mm, I mean, that looks so dodge. So you got scammed. It's 1 vs. 2 though. I mean, I guess Dobby's there. And then he's gonna steal the car. He's lost his flow. I lost like the 100 million that they did get. Okay, so little Diamond has to be waiting for them somewhere. Or probably when he drives back to the other money. He's so pleased with himself. Yes. We're all like, oh, he should be a counselor. And like, he's actually not that bad. He is that bad. No, no. Ooh. Ugh, I don't know. We're gonna find out who the scammer is here. Is it actually Dobu? I mean, maybe Dobu gave the eraser to Miho. I mean, he probably doesn't need a gun. It looks like he could just like wring the life out of Odokawa with his bare hands. Oh, why? Why does he have the eraser there? Why? This is the worst. Oh, that's actually Mitsuya's dad. Oh. Oh, it was Dobby. Has he just forgotten? Because he's just done so many scams. Why would it be though? A new boss I have to defeat. Like he's playing a game. Oh. I mean, I don't think he'd lie. Maybe he just really did forget. Oh no. Oh, I don't know. Oh shit. Shit. Wait, oh, so he wasn't the guy who shot at them in the van. Oh my god. He wasn't it was another guy in the white van. Like a copycat? I mean, Dobu is gonna go after him if indeed he does survive this, which he may not. My god, you really just left him there. How do they I mean, I guess they just left because it's just big time one. Oh, they just took the police car. And they left the money there. Oh, man. Everyone's dying. Yeah, why? What? It's the same foundation. Ugh. Okay, so maybe they really do just give to charities. But whoa, I feel every episode that we've watched today there's been at least 2 or 3 really big reveals, but they're done kind of really subtly, which I really appreciate. So, okay, so the Diamonds were orphaned, obviously, after the hit and run incident. It's not necessarily that Tapia Boss's crime organization was responsible for that. Maybe I don't know. For whatever reason, they started up a charity, a foundation that supports kids orphaned from these kinds of accidents. So it does seem like they are the same organization that supported Odokawa after his parents died in their double suicide. Couple of other loose ends tied up as well. Most significantly, we found out that Dobu was behind the Donraku eraser scam. I mean, I don't know. It felt like it could have been him or maybe one of his underlings who had control of his account. And they were kind of just running scams like that just as an everyday thing to make money. Assuming it was Dobu, like those 16 years ago. The contrast between Dobu being like, what? I don't know. Zuden, I guess. Oh, yes, I did used to play that game. Versus Tanaka and just how he has poured his entire life since that incident into getting revenge on Ditch 11 and then eventually just ending up in this place where he's roaming the streets with a gun, just shooting at random people in order to get back at the taxi driver who made him lose his dodo. Like the yawning gap between Dobu, you know, he's probably carried out numerous scams like that and couldn't name a single one of his victims versus Tanaka, who was one of those single victims who basically had his life go down the drain uh, due to that incident. Of course, it was related to a lot of his own self-esteem issues. It was just so stark, and I loved that they tied those two together. I don't know if Dobby's going to survive that gunshot. I think it was implied that he doesn't. Are we sad for him? Not really. I mean, it's sad whenever a human life is taken like that unnecessarily, but it's also, you know, as Odokawa was saying as he just cold-bloodedly left him on the ground there. It's like, it's the consequences of your own actions. Also, the way that Tanaka was shaken out of his rage-filled fog as soon as he actually used the gun to shoot someone and actually shot them. And then he just ran off because he was just absolutely horrified and in shock that he'd actually done that. That seemed like a very realistic depiction of what would have actually happened. This is a young guy who really hasn't done that much with his life except for be addicted to video games, and to see what actually happens to human flesh and blood and bone when you put a bullet through is a shock to the system. I don't know, maybe this was a thing that he needed to really shake him out of his stupor and just reevaluate where he is in life. I mean, ideally, it wouldn't have gotten to this point, but here we are. You know, I'm going to rewatch these 3 episodes, just comb through every fine detail, and then we can discuss like all of the reveals in much greater depth next time. Thanks again for watching with me, guys. We're really close to finishing this now, and give me your theories, give me your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.